Jamaica on the front page. The island tries to lure investors with a business year spread. Weekend Business Report starts right now. Hello and welcome to the show. I'm Keneal Gale. Thanks for joining us. The business year is an internationally acclaimed guide for investors. So, news that Jamaica will be getting its own issue in a few months has captured the interest of the local business community. More on that in a few minutes, but right now here are some of the top business news stories BATV brought you this week. Senator Orbin Hill is the new executive director of the Economic Growth Council, EGC. He succeeds Maureen Denton, who resigned in August. More in this report.
Prime Minister Holness says the selection process for the new Economic Growth Council EGC Executive Director was extensive. He argues that Senator Hill was selected because of his experience in the financial sector and his many accolades within the private sector.
The members of the council, along with myself, settled on Senator Orbin Hill. Senator Hill, as you know, has many years' experience in the banking sector. And works here in NCB, is well known in the private sector and understands the issue of economic growth very well. And I'm now pleased to announce the appointment of Senator Orbin Hill as the new Executive Director of the Economic Growth Council.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Holness points out that the new EGC Executive Director's main job will be to bridge the gap between the private and public sector while enabling growth-enhancing investments.
As I outlined, the critical functions develop economic policy, a set of policies that finds consensus over the private sector, the public sector, the government, to develop a doctrine of economic growth, to help with the accountability for growth and to help with the coordination of economic growth strategies and projects across the government. That will be the main function, and as well to be an advocate. So I'm satisfied and I'm confident that Senator Hill will be able to execute the duties of the office very proficiently.
In the meantime, while accepting his new role, Senator Hill said his approach will be to start out small with a few strategic projects, then expand as time goes by.
When we met earlier this week, late last week, he said we're going to focus on a few things that we're going to make sure that those can affect growth very quickly. I'm not now at the position to say what those main things are, but there will be 3 or 4 things that we're going to look at, sort of a growth triangle with 2 wings, but you'll hear more about that in due course. And we're not going to be all over the place, except that as we monitor, we will monitor a great deal of things.
Inter-American Development Bank IDB country representative for Jamaica, Therese Turner-Jones, says the organization is running out of ideas to solve Jamaica's crime problem. Mrs. Turner-Jones was the guest speaker at the inaugural Private Sector Organization of Jamaica PSOJ Finance Ministry Public Sector Corporate Governance Competition Awards on Wednesday. Here's more.
Therese Turner-Jones says the international community has hit a standstill on the factors contributing to Jamaica's escalating crime rate. She says the IDB has examined and addressed the key variables relating to crime on the island, but has still failed to curb the troubling trend. Now, the IDB is turning the spotlight on the role corruption may be playing in the rising crime rate.
It's gotten to a point where I think everyone is stressed. The international community has put a lot of resources into trying to provide the right advice for Jamaica. Jamaicans have put a lot of effort into dealing with it. What could be at the heart of it, and we're beginning to think part of the problem has to do with corruption. Let's just call it that. It's no other way to say why things can't be fixed around crime in this country.
But it's not all bad, Mrs. Turner-Jones says. The international community is also taking note of the island's significant achievements.
Jamaica has made a lot of progress. We have to build on that progress. I think the dividends are starting to be repaid now. We see interest rates are the lowest they've been. The exchange rate is fairly stable. I don't think it's fully competitive, but it's fairly stable. Unemployment is starting to inch down. Growth is starting to pick up, but a lot more needs to be done.
The IDB country representative says achieving higher growth numbers will require more collaboration from both the private and the public sectors.
The private sector and the public sector needs to think about how it does what it does. So using technology, being innovative, being creative, questioning the processes that we use in delivery of government services, right? So all of those things, I think, if we give them the attention they need, can help turn the dial on some of the social issues.
Technology Minister Dr. Andrew Wheatley has reassured Jamaicans that no internet service provider will be given preferential treatment on the island. The minister's pronouncement comes after changes were made to net neutrality laws in the U.S. Andrew Laidley tells us more.
It's a level playing field in Jamaica where net neutrality is concerned. That's the word from Technology Minister Andrew Wheatley, who says Jamaica has always championed equal internet traffic for all.
There's no internet service provider will be allowed to throttle, and what that simply means that you selectively give preference to one entity over another. It is equal opportunity, and persons, once you are paid for your data plan, you are free to use your data whichever way, whenever you want, once it is being done in a legal way.
Minister Wheatley explained that the developments in the U.S. regarding net neutrality does not have any immediate implication for Jamaica.
The decision yesterday by the FCC to abandon the whole concept of net neutrality is something that pertains to that particular jurisdiction. Jamaica and the government, and by extension Jamaica, believes in net neutrality, that the net should be free and everyone should and must have equal opportunity when it comes to data.
In the meantime, the minister says consultations are still ongoing regarding the data protection bill. But he says once the bill passes through the House, Jamaica will be at the forefront of the ICT industry in the region.
Well, the data protection bill was tabled in October in Parliament, and we put in place a joint select committee to examine this particular bill. We have invited stakeholders from all cross-section, whether it's the banking sector, the private sector organization, any entity, JITSA, Computer Society, legal fraternity, whichever entity that is out there, the BPO sector. In fact, we have done an extensive public awareness campaign to ensure that we get comments from persons who would want to contribute to the development of this bill, because once this bill passes through the House, it should be one that is very comprehensive and ensure that Jamaica is at the forefront as it relates to utilizing ICT, building out a digital society and creating investment opportunities for our people.
Moving on now, 2018 will see Jamaica getting its own issue of the prestigious Business Year magazine. The exposure is expected to give potential investors critical information about the economic climate in Jamaica. The Business Year is a global media group that focuses on economic news, national economies, and business intelligence. So Jamaica getting a full publication is a big deal.
What we're doing in Jamaica is also having a Jamaica-specific publication about the economy, the opportunities, the challenges of doing business here, of investing here. So our audience across the globe is the general investor community, let's say the global investor community, businessmen, exporters, people in trade, anyone that's interested in learning more about a specific economy that might not be, the information might not be so readily available. So while we're on the ground here, we're getting the real information, the real facts, let's say, of what the situation is from the top people of the country that have been working here, that have been successful investors, if they're from an international company, or the main local players that truly understand the situation in their specific sectors or industries.
The Business Year is active in over 35 countries globally with an emphasis on emerging markets.
Of course, now that Jamaica has implemented a lot of reforms that are starting to pay off, the interest from the global investor community is now finally shifting towards Jamaica. growth has been stagnant over the years, but now it's the long-term economic indicators, macroeconomic indicators are quite positive, and what the business here likes to do is get to a country before anyone else does, to really, the start of when all this attraction and attention is coming here. So the timing couldn't be better.
The edition on Jamaica will focus primarily on the business opportunities as well as the challenges in Jamaica. And it will encompass all the business communities, starting with the biggest CEOs, the biggest movers and shakers, as well as the relevant ministers that play an active role in the development of the country.
JAMPRO has played an integral role in getting the business year to come to Jamaica.
We selected the Business Year because it's a prestigious publication. It reaches the top CEOs and C-suite executives in 35 countries. And that's why we figured that it really focuses on a targeted audience and the audience that we want to reach. So it's a publication that focuses primarily on one country per time and interviews the top CEOs and government ministers and influencers of that country. So we thought that this was a real opportunity to give a high-level focus on Jamaica, its economic success to date, and where we are going as a country.
The JAMPRO head says while Jamaica has done well as a tourism brand, work needs to be done to propel the island into the forefront of the minds of investors.
I've often said that Jamaica has a tourism brand. We talk a lot about Brand Jamaica, and we have a really powerful tourism brand. JTB has almost done too good a job. That's our Jamaican tourist board. So people think of Jamaica as a tourism fun destination. They don't really think of Jamaica as business. And what we want to do, along with Business Year and various other initiatives we have, is to change that perception, to add to tourism that beyond the beach there is actually a thriving economy with huge potential for business to grow.
But gathering the data for the publication has not been easy.
Like every person in the business community, they are busy. Second of all, JAMPRO has been very supportive and very much involved in the interviewing process. They have shared contacts with us, and they have encouraged people to give us a couple of meetings, a couple of minutes of their time, and made sure that we have the most important people in each sector. Every country has their specifics, and every country is different in terms of how people work. It's a learning process, and I think Jamaica is very unique, and as I mentioned, we have to adapt to be able to be productive here. It's a learning process.
So, what are the benefits for Jamaica?
Let's say a third-party platform that is trusted by the investor community, that's trusted by the international business community to really understand the situation that's going on here. So, apart from, of course, JAMPRO is doing a lot of great work, there's a lot of other things going on, but to have a third-party perspective, let's say, that investors can see, they can read, and go, okay, these people have been there, they've done the work, they've done the research, this is something we can trust, and of course they can see the opportunities in Jamaica that have been overshadowed, let's say, or just emerging that aren't as well known internationally yet.
It will give us a window on some of the positive industrial and commercial developments in Jamaica, and also give international CEOs and C-suite executives a window on the opportunities available in Jamaica and the trajectory of the economy and which sectors are most attractive for investment and how we want to take the country forward. So what we're really saying with this publication is that Jamaica has a winning value proposition. Come and participate.
Company news comes up next, then later, taking refuge, healing, and providing for their families. We'll tell you how a makeshift beauty salon in South Sudan is providing widows with more than just an income. More WBR after this break. Welcome back to Weekend Business Report. VM Investment IPO oversubscribed. GK reshuffles its manager deck, and NCB closes Clarion takeover. Here's Jason Muyang with this week's company news.
Victoria Mutual Investments says its initial public offering IPO was oversubscribed. The IPO closed 6 days early with subscriptions in excess of $2 billion. Victoria Mutual Investments was looking to raise close to $700 million of working capital by selling some 300 million ordinary shares. Come January 1, GK Foods International Business will have a new CEO. Andrea Coy will take over from Ryan Mack. The GK Group says in this new role, Andrea Coy will continue to lead the Global Category Management Unit as the company renews its commitment to a marketing-led, customer-centric approach to doing business. Meanwhile, Ryan Mack will take up the role of CEO of GK Foods Domestic Business. Other announced changes include the appointment of Derek Rockford as the acting president and CEO of Grace Kennedy Foods USA. The current Chief Financial Officer, CFO of GK Money Services, GKMS, Margaret Campbell, will be appointed Country Manager for the Jamaican operations of GKMS, and Steve Whittingham is to be appointed to the company's Executive Committee. NCB Financial Group says its acquisition of a 50.1% majority stake in Clarion Group Limited, owner of Clarion Bank Limited, CGL, based in Hamilton, Bermuda, is complete. Under the transaction agreement, along with NCB's majority share, funds managed by Portland Private Equity will hold 17.92% and Edmund Gibbons Limited will retain a 31.98% shareholding.
Thanks a lot, Jason. Let's now take a look at how the major stock markets around the world ended the week. When we come back, more of the top news stories BATV brought you this week. So stay with us. Welcome back to Weekend Business Report. More news now. A new motor vehicle policy may be coming soon. Here's more.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness says ATL's investment in its new BMW showroom and plans to construct a hotel on the property further positions Kingston as a crucial city in the Caribbean.
I'm expecting that by next year this time, we will be seeing the hotel that will surround this property. And who knows, maybe early the following year, we'll open the hotel. That means jobs. Jobs for our people. But it also means that we are building a city that can be the center of the Caribbean. And that is the objective.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Holness is calling for more large-scale investments from locals. He says that is why the government is working hard to have more Jamaicans like Gordon Butch Stewart reinvest in the country.
Invest in Project Jamaica. Put your money where you live. You have a government that believes in a partnership for prosperity. The government can't create jobs. The government can't build factories. What the government's role is to make it possible for the financing to be available.
In the meantime, the new showroom is expected to contribute to the rising number of cars in Jamaica. Prime Minister Holness says there are close to 750,000 vehicles currently on the nation's roads. That's why he says the government will have to consider a new motor vehicle policy to govern what types of cars are imported.
The truth is that we will have to very soon consider a policy on the kinds of cars that we use in Jamaica. So the future is now. Electric cars are something that we will have to consider.
Tourism Minister Ed Bartlett is still defending the government's decision to host the UNWTO Global Conference. He says the conference provided an excellent opportunity for the world to focus on Jamaica and the Caribbean. Anthony Morgan tells us more.
Still trying to convince skeptics that spending some $125 million to host the UNWTO conference was money well spent, Tourism Minister Ed Bartlett came armed with detailed information on the outcomes. He said the total amount spent on the conference is now being finalized and is to be presented to Cabinet, then to Parliament. The tourism minister pointed out that several deals were struck during the conference that will benefit Jamaica's tourism product. Among the deals were the signing of a multi-destination MOU, Airbnb making its new trips platform available to Jamaican hosts, and the Jamaica Center for Tourism Innovation gaining its first partner since being established.
You recall that we established the Jamaica Center of Tourism Innovation, and we had our first partnership signature with the American Hotel and Lodging Education Institute, so that our graduates now from the JCTI will have the designation of AHLEI, which allows them to not only move up professionally in the local market, but have access to employment anywhere in the world as professionals.
Minister Bartlett said Jamaica also established a partnership through the Tourism Product Development Corporation, TPDCO, with the globally recognized Travel Foundation.
What we established was a framework for collaboration and cooperation that will see both the TPDCO and the World Travel Federation providing educational development for our craft vendors and operators of attractions. And it is part of broadening that whole base of improving the capacity of all layers within the sector of the human side.
However, Minister Bartlett said that the biggest legacy of the conference was the unveiling of the 15-point Declaration of Montego Bay. According to him, the declaration isn't just a blueprint for sustainable tourism, but also a roadmap for new sustainable development goals. He says he will be presenting the document when he visits Geneva next week.
That our name, Montego Bay, Jamaica, will be indelibly etched in the lexicon of tourism references, so that children yet unborn will know that Montego Bay existed and Jamaica contributed.
The National Environment and Planning Agency, NEPA, is warning members of the public who may be seeking to purchase pets as gifts for the Christmas season to be careful not to buy protected species. Protected animals include the yellow-billed and black-billed parrots, the crested quail dove, the Jamaican parakeet, the American crocodile, the Jamaican slider turtle, and the Jamaican boa snake. NEPA is reminding the public that it is an offense under the Wildlife Protection Act to have in your possession any protected animal, or to hunt, kill, capture, or willfully molest any of these animals. Individuals found guilty of any of these offenses may be charged a maximum fine of $100,000 or face a year imprisonment. When we come back, Sudanese widows use a beauty salon to earn more than just a livelihood. We'll explain after the break. Welcome back to Weekend Business Report. A beauty salon in South Sudan has become a refuge for many widows of war. They're among the thousands who are the sole breadwinners after their husbands were killed during the country's devastating 4-year conflict.
Mary Warriors is hoping for a hairstyle that comes as close to perfection as possible. Hairstyling for her is not just a job, it's a form of therapy. The 28-year-old is left to take care of 4 children on her own after her husband was killed in the Civil War.
What brings me here is the need to support my children. I'm a widow, I need to feed them, and this salon offers me the chance to do so and provide them with the basics.
Tens of thousands of South Sudanese men have been killed in the 4-year war in Africa's youngest nation. 4 million of the 12 million population is displaced. 8 out of 10 of them are women and children in Africa's largest refugee crisis. The salon in Akobo provides not only a way for widows to earn money for their families, but offers a chance to talk of their ordeals. Some say they too are victims, in more ways than one.
When the war came to our village, we ran, but we needed food, so we went back eventually. We found soldiers there who raped us. I had lost my husband shortly before that. I struggled to raise our children, but coming here reminds me that I'm not alone in what I'm facing.
Because polygamy is common in South Sudan, the war has left behind hundreds of thousands of widows who lost their husbands.
No one is keeping track of the number of people killed in South Sudan's war, but aid organizations estimate that more than 500,000 widows are left behind. Many are the sole breadwinners for their children, and the war has caused high inflation and food shortage for half the population.
For many widows who are single mothers, the burden can be too much to handle. Mary Chol runs the widows group here in Akobo. She says widows benefit from helping each other.
When we brought together the widows, they had all lost their husbands in the war and were tired of taking care of their children alone. Some thought of suicide. 4 killed themselves last year. But those here in the group look at other widows and realize that they're not alone and have others that they can talk to.
Merinya Warriors knows her life won't be the same again after her husband was killed. But at least she has a place she can talk about her trauma and hope for a better future. Hiba Morgan, Al Jazeera, Akobo, South Sudan.
And that's our show for this week. On behalf of Anthony, Andrew, Hugo, Paul, Jason, and the entire Weekend Business Report team, I'm Kenil. See you next time.